What is up? It's only Tuesday, I guess. What's the date today? Tuesday, December 3rd. Nice. It's almost Christmas or something, I guess. My stupid camera apparently did not want to hold a charge overnight, and I guess this stupid courtesy shuttle has a USB charger that doesn't actually charge either. So I tried recording this video this morning, and it just died a few minutes in, which is perfect. So we'll get back into it. It says it's about like an hour to get home. I'm leaving work pretty late. It's already after 6. So it's just been a couple long days. And you can't see outside, but I don't think in my entire life I've ever seen this much fog anywhere. I thought there was something on the windshield of this car, but it's nuts. There's there's so much fog. Anyway, topic for today is submitted from a viewer. The question was about being able to move into management from a individual contributor role, and sort of like what's the way to fast track that, right? So I apologize because I can't recall if it was someone that's junior, or I feel like they were saying they have a few years of experience as an individual contributor and want to move into management. But I think their point was they don't want to, my God, it's like a wall of just white in front of me right now, and it's not snowing, it's just fog. But they don't want to wait, like they were saying, like a decade till they move into a management position. So I want to talk through this. We'll try to see if we can approach things from like, at the same company versus switching companies and that kind of thing. My thoughts around this. And just want to remind people before I get into it, if you have topics that you want to go over, want me to go over, you can either comment below, and happy to kind of read through and see if I can fit it in here, or if you want it to be anonymous, find me on social media as dev leader, on any platform. DM me, send me a message there, and just say, hey, like, can you talk about this on Code Commute? I'd like to keep it anonymous. I have no reason to kind of share who you are. I'm happy to talk through things. And a reminder too, the more context that you provide, the more sort of context I have to work with if I'm going to offer advice. When people ask very general things, you get very general answers. Sorry, this person in front of me is really dropping the ball on lane management. If they just move up about like a foot, I could pass them, but apparently driving's not anyone's forte today. Okay, so thoughts on this. Let's kind of focus on where someone's at as an individual contributor, and at least how they can start moving in the direction of kind of skilling up or working towards like a formal leadership type of position. And first of all, I think if you don't have opportunities that like explicitly present themselves at work, like someone's not giving you these types of opportunities, someone's not pushing you in this direction, my general advice for really anything in your career is like, don't wait for people to kind of just put the opportunities in front of you. Like, look for them and create them. Now, that doesn't mean that, like, as an individual contributor, you just, like, stop coding and just, like, start delegating things and doing one-on-ones with people and just, like, pretend you're the manager of the team. Like, please don't do that, because that would be super weird, and you'd probably have a lot of other issues at work. But, like, try to create some types of informal leadership opportunities, right? So if there are things like being able to mentor more junior people on the team to help them out, onboarding people to the team. If you have interns, you could be like I'm going to use air quotes here, like an intern buddy, where you're their mentor for the time that they're going to be with your team. Like, looking for these types of things and volunteering for them or taking them on sort of informally I think is such a good opportunity for a bunch of different reasons. One is like, first of all, if you try to create this opportunity, it shows you're being proactive, taking initiative, and this is, I feel like, a good, set of characteristics that I would want any leader or manager to try and embody. So, like, start doing that, right? Like, lead, demonstrate these types of traits that you would want to see in someone who is managing or leading. And then number two is obviously, like, you're building that actual experience of being able to kind of flex your people muscles, so to speak. So if you're able to work with people on a people perspective, I think that's really helpful. So it's not just like, I'm going to code more things. I'm not just going to like architect and design more things. Yes, you want to keep on top of this stuff because it's part of your role already as an IC, but finding ways that you can have more of these other opportunities is key. So sort of the first takeaway here is, don't just sit back and wait for such opportunities. Start trying to create them or look for them, seek them out, be proactive. With that said, something that to me, like, it always feels obvious, and I shouldn't make this assumption because I know from having enough conversations, like, for whatever reason, this is not a lot of people's obvious first step. But like, talk to your manager. I think it's funny, right? Like, this is gonna sound kind of silly, but I know this from doing like early in career mentorship for a few years at Microsoft, where someone will have a one-on-one with me. They're early in their career, so they're very junior, they're new to Microsoft, and what ends up happening is they're talking to me about something where it's like, either they're having challenges within the team, they're looking for clarity, whatever it happens to be. Say in this person's case, it's like, hey, I'm really interested in working towards becoming a manager. So what would happen is I have these people coming to me and having conversations with me, and I would say like, oh, like, have you talked to your manager about this? And then the answer is no. And it's like, well, wait, why not? Like, why am I the first person you're talking to about this? And I realize it's because sometimes people have managers where, like, that relationship feels weird, right? Like, they're like, I'm not totally comfortable asking my manager about this stuff. Like, I don't know how to ask my manager about career progression or performance rewards, promotion. Like, I don't know how to talk about that with my manager. So, like, I'm just talking to you, Nick. Like, you're just a dude. Like, you seem to have some insight about this kind of stuff, but we don't have this weird working dynamic, so it's just easier. So I do keep forgetting that it's not totally obvious that people are or like should be doing this. So I'm going to say it out loud again. If you're interested in any type of career movement, in this particular case, we're talking about you're an IC, you're like, I think that I want to work towards becoming a manager. If that's an interest of yours, talk to your manager. If you feel that you can't talk to your manager about this stuff, this is way too like broad of a thing to dive into, but like either work on that relationship with your manager where you can have meaningful conversations about this stuff, or I mean, if you're like, oh, I could never talk to my manager about career growth, like, maybe you're in the wrong spot. Like, that doesn't seem like a good spot where you're going to try to grow into a manager or anything else. So maybe reconsider that. I would like to encourage people to do the former, though, right? Like, try to build that relationship. So have a conversation with your manager, and this is an area of interest for you. Now, one of the challenging things is that as a manager, if someone came to me and was like, I'm interested in management, like, I don't have that position available, right? Like, I'm not even hiring people right now as ICs. So I don't have IC positions. I certainly don't have a manager position below me. Can I move over here? My God. This, you can't see the lane, but it's like, it's an absolute nightmare right here. There's tons of people, like, there's 2 lanes merging into one, merging onto the highway, and then if you're like me, you're going the opposite direction because you're trying to get off here. But it's just a absolute cluster. I can't believe this. Anyway, what was I even saying now? We're talking about trying to be working towards management, right? Okay, so it's a challenging situation because like I need to and I want to support people in their career progression, but like I need to be very transparent. Like if you want to become a manager, awesome. I'm the type of manager, like I want to support you in this kind of stuff. Let me try to find whatever opportunity I can that aligns to these interests for you that makes sense. But like the reality is, like, it's not like it's going to take a year. It's not going to be 2 years. It's not going to be 3 years. If I don't have a manager position, like, I'm not the one who's going to be putting you there. So it's kind of weird because I need people to recognize this, right? Like, I want to support you. I will support you. I will, if it means like working towards a team lead position, if you're not even there yet, like, let's talk through that. Let me find and create these informal leadership opportunities with you. Like, I want to support you on that. But like, it doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, or 10 years. If I don't have a manager position opening up underneath me, I cannot promote you to a manager. It's impossible. Unless I'm growing as a manager and I become a manager of managers so I can bring people in, right? So the point though is I need people to understand that. But the second part is like, if someone were, working with me for however long, trying to make progress in this direction, if it got to the point where we're both kind of feeling like, hey, like, you're probably ready for your first opportunity at this, I don't have it for you. I've talked about this in previous videos. My perspective on this is like, I should expect that you're going to leave. And instead of just like being shocked by it or surprised by it, like, if you're going to be demotivated because your career progression, this path that you want to take, is now like was supported by me, but now is being inhibited by me because I don't have this position for you, I will expect that you will become more and more disengaged. So it takes like a 180, right? Like, oh, thanks so much for all the support. I feel like I'm working towards this. And then you start kind of like really getting there. And then it's not all of a sudden, but like it starts to become, well, why can't I progress anymore? And it's like, yeah, because I don't have that opportunity for you. So I would personally want to get ahead of that. And once we start to realize like, hey, look, like you probably are ready for your first opportunity at this, I would, at a company like Microsoft, at least, it's big. If you're working in a larger organization, it's probably easier. I would be trying to work with you to find these opportunities still at Microsoft, right? Like, or if I were working somewhere else, same thing applies. And that's because if I think that you are good, you're working towards this, why would we not want to try and keep you, right? But again, if I cannot support that, if the roles aren't available where we're at, I cannot and will not be surprised if you leave. Because you should, right? If your growth opportunity is inhibited where you are, you should leave. And it's like, it feels crappy to say because obviously, as someone who's managing people, I want to invest time in people's growth. I want that to happen. But like, if I get people to a point, or I'm working with them to a point where they can no longer grow, I shouldn't be surprised by it. So that's my philosophy when it comes to this kind of stuff. So that's how I would want to approach people, that came to me and said they wanted to become a manager. I realize that if you're listening to this, if you're like, hey, my manager's not like that, that's, bullcrap advice. Like, I get it. I'm not every manager. Every manager's not me either. Everyone's going to be different. But if you're kind of making assumptions about your working relationship with your manager just because like you don't even know, you should at least, in my opinion, you should at least try having these conversations to like, say like, this is a direction I'm interested in. Like, can we talk about it, right? Okay, so You want to look for and create opportunities by being proactive. You want to make sure you're being clear with your manager about this stuff. I don't think that there's any shortcuts to this kind of thing normally. Okay, and I say that with an extreme bias, and if you're kind of new to watching my videos and stuff, if you don't really have my background, I'll share a little bit about it. So I'm at Microsoft now. I've been here for about 4.5 years. I started at Microsoft as a principal level engineering manager, and prior to that, I was at it was a startup when I started there 8 years before. And I was an engineering manager there for 8 years. So almost the entire time that I was at this startup before Microsoft, I was in a role that was essentially like a technical manager. So I was a software engineer, writing code and managing teams. But the reason that I have a weird bias for all this stuff is because very shortly after I started, being fresh out of school, I was leading teams. That's not normal. That's super weird. It's not, I'm not saying it's impossible, because clearly I was in that position. I'm not special in the sense that it's because I was so good at all these things. I would love to be able to say, yes, it's because I'm the most amazing and I'm super special this way. Nope. Circumstances, right? I was at a startup and they were growing teams. And literally they were like, hey, like, you're a good developer. You seem to be able to talk really, well with the other developers and communicate. And like, do you want to start doing this? And I'm like, I literally have no idea what I'm doing. Sure. Like, we know it's got to get done, right? Cool. It's a startup, right? Yeah. Okay. Like, let's go. And I had such a great HR leader the entire time I was there. And regularly she would have conversations with me and she would say, how are you feeling about this? Are you ready to kind of go into management, or are you feeling like you want to stay on a technical path? And it took me almost 8 years to finally realize, like, yeah, management. It took me a really long time, and it's because by the end of that, I started to realize that I was having more impact by being a manager versus just by, like, if I could remove myself more from code, it gave me more time to have bigger impact. So that's when I started to realize, like, management. Now, that's not going to be the same for everyone, right? So number one, my situation's a little bit unique. I do want to kind of transition to talk about startup and big tech kind of situations, but so that's coming right up. But I wanted to also mention before I forget, because I'm really good at going on tangents, is that management is absolutely not for everyone. And I'm not saying that because I'm like trying to gatekeep it. I mean, literally, you might hate doing it because you might go, man, I really love writing code. And guess how much code I write at work every day? Approximately 0. I write 0 code every day at work for 4.5 years. That's not the same for every engineering manager, not by a long shot, but the more focused you become down this career path, you will find statistically the less code you're writing at work. I write code every day outside of work because I love doing it. But if that's something where you're like, I need to feel fulfilled by writing code and actually having my hands in the code and writing software, you may very well find that, like, management does not feel good for you. If you don't like working with people very closely and literally dealing with all sorts of people problems regularly, you may not like management. So I'm saying this because even when I'm kind of giving you guidance around, hey, like, try to, mentor juniors, try to be an onboarding buddy, try to be like an intern buddy or intern mentor. These are all awesome things, but like, you're still not getting all of it, because I will have conversations like regularly. When you have enough people on your team, you have conversations regularly with challenging stuff going on with them outside of work, going on within work. There's non-stop things that are like kind of under the radar, and it's all about dealing with people. If you don't like this kind of stuff, genuinely, you will probably not enjoy being a manager. It's not about, oh, it's a better title. Like, that's bullcrap. At some places it is. And I would say that those places are probably structured in a pretty dangerous way. Because if your idea of rewarding engineers is by promoting them into management, that's not a good spot to be in, because it's literally a completely different role. Just as a heads up. Okay, Mr. Tesla, get a grip. You're not gonna like try to cut me off here. It's called a zipper merge. You'll figure it out. God. I hate this X1. It's so crappy. Okay, let's go startups, larger companies, to kind of talk through some differences here. Again, these are sweeping generalizations. I totally expect at least one person watching this will say that's absolutely not how it worked for me or what I've seen, and you're totally right. So we're not going to be arguing about it. I have to talk in generalizations because it's impossible to address these things otherwise. So please understand that. There's 100% going to be exceptions to anything I say. Plus, I'm only one person giving you one perspective. Okay. At startups, I would say these types of opportunities are a lot more common. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're at a company, like a startup that is scaling and actually growing and not like constantly on the verge of like about to disappear. Sorry, I got to move over one more lane before I can think clearly. And it's really difficult because I got to merge into this fast lane. And this, oh my God, come on, buddy, just get over here. This X1, I can put my foot on the floor and like it doesn't go anywhere, which is pretty scary. Not that it matters when you have someone like this in front of you that's also going apparently negative speed. Okay. So when startups are scaling, you're going to have a couple things going on, right? One is that you're going to have a single team that you might be on that's growing, and you will also have new teams that are spinning up. And how these things happen can be very, very organic, but it's also likely a lot more common if the startup is growing. Again, if the startup that you're at is like, I'm going to use the word stagnant. I know it sounds like a very negative word. You might be at a very successful startup and the growth is stagnant in terms of headcount. Okay? There's companies that have been wildly successful that don't have many employees. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, so don't interpret it the wrong way. But if you're at a company where the headcount growth is stagnant, this is not going to be very applicable. Okay, so if the company is growing in terms of headcount, there's either new teams forming or teams are growing. Now, in both of those cases, there are more opportunities to need more managers. So I personally think the strategy at a smaller company for this type of thing is like finding yourself in a position where you're taking a lot of initiative, you are diving into trying to lead projects, or kind of taking on like that team lead role, and just taking a lot of initiative and responsibility. I think that more often than not, as long as there's sort of promote from within, you're setting yourself up for success that way. Early on at the company that I was at before Microsoft, I feel like really early, it was kind of like promote from within because I got the position I was given and I stuck with it. Later on, it felt like very, very, very much the opposite. Oh, we need someone, okay, like we're gonna hire. Oh, we need someone else, we're gonna hire. We need to bring in VP, we're gonna hire. It felt, for the large majority of the time I was there, that they flipped from promote from within to external hire, which is a pretty weird feeling, because when you're at a company for a long time, and by the way, I'm sharing this not because I have a problem with that company, not by any means. I'm sharing because this is something that you might want to think through, because it is kind of weird. And I can safely say, like, I feel like if he wasn't super busy, I could message the founder of that company or the CEO from that company and message them and have a happy conversation. And I don't work there anymore, right? Like, so it's not like bad blood, but that company did a lot of external hiring. And the reason it's a weird feeling is because when you're there at the beginning, there's one level between you and the CEO or the founder. In this case, both for me, right? It's just me and them. And then as the company grows, you basically, even though you have all of the tenure, you keep moving further and further away from being able to have more impactful decision making, which is really wild, right? And this really interesting situation where, like, I remember hiring people that would be my peers, and because of how our career ladder kind of work as we were making it, because I was a technical manager, there was no technical director role. So I could never move to be a director. And because I had peers that were not technical managers, they could get promoted into being directors. So, like, a very weird kind of situation, right? Even though I had the tenure and, like, had been, managing teams by that time for like 7 years, kind of weird, right? So anyway, it's something to think about, because it's not that can't happen at larger companies, because even for me, the last team I was on, when they're doing reorgs and stuff, you can be moved further away from executive levels or closer. So it happens everywhere. But just something to think about when you're growing with a startup, right? If they're promoting from within versus external hire. So if you're at a small company, like I said, I think taking initiative to try and lead projects, if those things grow into full-on products that have to be expanded, need more team members around them, all sorts of stuff, like, this is where I personally feel like there's lots of opportunity for kind of demonstrating, like, hey, look, I've been leading projects. People on the team, look up to me as an informal leader. I've been doing it. Like, I'm already kind of mentoring a lot of people on the team. Like, I'm basically doing what an engineering manager might be responsible for, but it's not formalized. And you haven't given me sort of like the formal responsibility of, like, actually doing one-on-ones for career growth and stuff like that, right? So then they might say, hey, you know what, like, let's formalize it, let's hire more people or whatever, you can help scale the team. So anyway, that's how I would look at things from the startup side. This type of thing is not impossible for big tech. It's not impossible, but I feel like, depending on the company or where you're working, like what organization you're in, things might feel a little bit more solidified in terms of, like, this is the way things are. And it might be where you are in the company, it might feel really weird to just have, like, a whole new team have to get spun up from nothing, right? Like, oh, we just made up a new product. Well, maybe not where you're working. Maybe it's like most of the products and services are pretty steady. So what's different, though, is that it might mean moving to different parts of the organization, right? Hey, look, you're in this part of the org, things are pretty steady where you're at, but over here, this part of the org is growing, and they're actually basically, there's a manager that is going to be hiring under other managers under them, scaling out teams. That's actually how I was brought into Microsoft. Okay, so the team that I got hired onto, the manager had a pretty large team and said, I guess, had headcount to hire in a manager, so me, And his initial plans were that he was going to scale out these other teams to bring on or promote from within other managers. Right? So by growing existing teams, it was like, hey, there's this opportunity. So I think if you're at a big company and trying to stay within the big company, I don't have stats on this, but I would say the opportunity probably looks like looking for teams that are growing in this regard and then like applying to some other part of the organization. And that's because if that phenomenon I just explained of like, hey, this other team's growing, a manager's kind of hiring other managers under them. If your manager is not doing that, like it's just like I said earlier, it's going to feel like you don't have that career path. So at a bigger company, I see that being more of the common pattern, is like that's kind of happening. So to give you a counter example to that, it's literally the opposite of what I just said. When I switched, the first part's not the opposite, the second part is. When I switched teams at Microsoft, it was a similar example to the first part, which was manager, my current manager, scaling out a team. I need to bring in an engineering manager for this. That's me. Okay, so that happened. The team I left, they actually did 2 internal promotions. So I left, and then they internally promoted 2 other people to engineering manager, which is awesome. By the way, I'm a huge fan of internal promotions, because like when you have people that are just doing awesome and demonstrating that they're able to do awesome, if they have the interest and they're looking for that opportunity, that change, like I don't know why you like wouldn't just lean into that. I feel like it's such a huge like positive engagement. Like, man, I don't know. I don't feel like it's done enough, but at least, again, I don't have stats on it. I have not seen it done enough to my liking in my career. Not even for me, I mean, but like just in general. So I was really happy to see that. I thought that was really cool news. But I do feel like in big tech companies or larger companies in general, it's probably more common that you'll find yourself having to look to other parts of the org to say, hey, like who's scaling out teams, and I'm going to go apply for that. Which can make it a little awkward, right? Because you're trying to get support from your manager, and then like I was hinting at earlier, like is that going to create this dynamic where your manager's like, inevitably, I need to expect you're going to leave, or I'm hoping that our team is growing and I can kind of promote you. So I don't know how much more on this I have to offer. In terms of timelines and stuff, like I guess here's what I would have to say. If you're hearing this, you're really kind of listening through and you're like, okay, good, I wanted to find something like this so I can hear how I can get to be a manager. I would, and I mean this genuinely, like, because I know that some people probably don't, probably just don't totally get it yet when I've been saying it, but if your goal is to become a manager just so that you can say, great, I'm at a certain level, like, you know, hitting manager is like, that's what it's going to mean to be successful, or it's because managers get to make all the decisions, or managers get paid more, or manager's the only way I can get promoted. Like, if those are the reasons why you're trying to say, how do I become a manager faster, or, you know, what's the shortcut to it? I just genuinely want to say, like, you may want to reconsider your approach or your reason. Because number one, it's not true that the only way to sort of advance in your career is to move into management. Yes, it's true that like the more that you're advancing your career, like at a minimum, informal leadership will continue to go up and up just because you're having more and more impact. But like even at Microsoft, right, there are people that have an individual contributor role. It's like distinguished engineer, right? There's like principal, there's partner, there's, I don't even know. But yeah, there's like distinguished, I don't even know what level that is at Microsoft. But there are companies, Microsoft included, that have career trajectories for individual contributors. And you never have to take on like a formal management role. And like, especially if you continue down the manager path, like manager of managers, where like you're just becoming more and more removed from like putting your hands in code or seeing code. So number one, that opportunity to become an individual contributor at a higher level absolutely exists. You don't need to move into management. That's the first part. Number two is like, as a manager, like, yeah, like I have decision-making power, but you bet your ass that I'm talking with my principal engineers on my team and leaning on my team in general for all sorts of things. Like, I am not, I mean, it's a little different where I used to work. I was, you know, a technical expert just because I was there for literally forever. I guess that's not how you use the word literally, but I think you know what I mean. I was there for a long time, so, and I had built a lot of the stuff, so I was a technical expert. I would still lean on my team for a lot of stuff. As an engineering manager, that's what I do. I need to help my team and ensure that my team is growing, they're effective, and they better be way more knowledgeable in these areas than I am. That's the whole point. They're the experts. If they're brand new or they're junior, like, yeah, they might not be experts yet, but that's my goal with them. I want them to be the subject matter experts. So I'm not going to just like sit in a room and just go make technical decisions and like just tell people what to do. That would be ridiculously unsafe. So as an engineering manager, I'm not making all the decisions, right? It's also worth mentioning that like, as a manager, especially like a middle manager, right? So like I'm not a manager of managers at this point in my career. I talked about this on one of the other videos. If I would have stayed at the last company, I could guarantee that I would be, you know, either director or VP level there. So like manager of managers type of situation. And that's because like even before I left, I mentioned there was no like director role for me, but they were like they're trying to figure that out, like what that would look like. So, and that's already 4.5 years ago. So it would have at a minimum been director. So when you're a middle manager and you have individual contributors reporting to you, and then you report to other managers, it's literally, I can't use the word literally, that's just unfair. It's a crappy spot to be in. It's crappy because you're in the middle of everything. So you want to do good by your team, you want to make sure your team's supported, but then you get pressure from wherever else. You're shielding your team from this stuff, making sure that you can, you know, balance, like, you're getting all this pressure and you need to make sure that you're still supporting your team while simultaneously asking them to help deliver on things that are, you know, there's always more and more priorities, right? So it's a really, really tough spot to be in. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to say, and I'm so good at it, I'm just trying to say it's a crappy spot to be in. It's hard. It's definitely hard. So I understand that some people might glamorize the role because, oh, like it means you're in charge of people, right? Like, kinda, but I would just say I feel like that's the wrong way to look at it. I'm a strong believer in like the term like servant leadership. My role as a manager, and like I said, this is my belief, my philosophy with management. My role is to enable my team and to serve my team. that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And as a result, it's, I don't know if it comes across this way all the time to other people, but it should not feel like I'm telling people what to do and like ordering them around. It's very much like, here's the direction, based on what I'm being told, based on priorities that I've been working through and understanding. Here's the direction, and let me know how I can support you however I can, right? That's my goal. I don't know if it always comes across that way, but that's my goal. So it's tough. So if you're interested in being a manager and the interest was because of these things I just mentioned, I'm trying to suggest like maybe reconsider your why. Because if it's like just because, oh, the pay must be higher, or I get to tell people what to do, or whatever, it's the only career path, it means like advancing, maybe reconsider, right? So I would say, if that's not the case, if you're like, no, I genuinely like being able to help others, I like supporting others, I like working with other people to enable them to do better work, and as a result have greater impact. Like, if that's your motivation, in my opinion, I'm like, okay, like I feel like that's good motivation to, and I like working with people specifically, right? I don't want to forget that part. It's obviously a core part. If that's a motivation, I'm like, okay, these feel like, to me, like the right things, and you're not going to be like surprised and upset when you become a manager and you're like, oh no, like I have to work with people. Like, yeah, all the time, man. But then I would say, if that's what you want, you can start doing a lot of that without having to rush it. Right? This is a really long tangent because I started trying to talk about like, how long does it take, right? My point is like, what does it matter? Like, if the reason that you want to get into this is because you want to help enable people do better work and be more effective, start today. Be a good teammate. Right? Like, help enable other people do their work more effectively. Get your shit done, because that's the expectation on you. Get through your stuff, but then help enable your teammates do awesome work. You don't need to be a manager to have that. When you're a manager, you get to hopefully help do that, I would hope. And then you get a lot of more responsibilities that maybe aren't so fun. So like lean into the good stuff while you can. So I'm kind of dancing around trying to give you timelines because I can't do that. The person that had requested an answer to this, like, they're asking for like, how do I shorten it, right? I don't want to wait like 10 years. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I would hope if you're focused on this stuff, you're kind of, like I said, creating these opportunities and all that, I would hope it's not going to take you 10 years, especially if you're already in the industry, you're already working. But like, it might. And that might depend where you're at. So again, if you're building up the experience and those opportunities aren't being created for you, regardless of whether or not you're at a startup or at a larger company, if you're doing all this stuff, start looking outside of where you're at, right? It's the same idea of like, if you're creating the opportunities for looking for informal leadership to kind of put you on the right path or working towards a manager role, if the opportunity for a manager role is not where you are, it's time to go look elsewhere. And that's the end. No, I think more or less that's kind of what I have to say about that, right? So it could take years. And I don't say that to be, I don't know, like, I'm I'm not trying to gatekeep anyone from it. I don't even have roles. I don't have roles to be able to tell people no. I'm trying to say that it might take you, even if you had all of the skills, it might just take you time to go find where that opportunity is for you, right? So you have to look for the opportunity. That's going to take time for the role itself. If you have not been practicing the skills, that might take you years to practice those skills. And you might find that like you don't like it, which is another reason why I don't want to suggest that anyone tries to rush into this stuff. If you love being a software developer and you're trying to look for some of these other things that a manager might do, like, you might find that you miss being a software developer. So I personally think that not trying to rush into things, especially this kind of thing, is a good opportunity. To give you another example, okay? Let's not pick an engineering manager, because you might perceive that as like a career step up, because, oh, well, I have an engineering manager, they manage me, that's my boss, that's a career step up. Let's talk about what could be potentially perceived as a lateral move. So, and maybe this is or isn't where you work, I don't know, but if you're a software developer, imagine that instead of an engineering manager, you were saying, I want to become a project manager. I really want to focus on coordinating projects. I want to sort out dependencies. I want to work across teams and figure out timelines and all this kind of stuff. Like, okay, cool. Like, if that's what you want to do, imagine if you could snap your fingers and all of a sudden you were a project manager, right? You shortcut everything. Like, how do you know that you even like doing it? What if you snapped your fingers and became that project manager and you were like, oh shit, like, I really don't enjoy this. I really wish I was spending more time writing code. I actually like, I don't know, debugging things. I like architecting things. I like designing systems. And guess what? Now you're not doing it. So when you take the time to feel out these roles that you're trying to transition to, and get a feel for if you enjoy doing it, and you work at transitioning to them, I think that gives you this better opportunity to figure out, like, do I like doing this thing, and am I doing it because I like it, not because I think that on paper it seems to look better. I know, like, I can say with confidence, I know engineering managers that became engineering managers and said, again, holy shit, like, I had no idea this is what it was like. And for a lot of them, it's because they were promoted into the role. Right? Like, they weren't planning for it. They were promoted into it, and they were like, oh man, like, this is weird, like, not what I was expecting. It's like, yeah, because you're just dealing with people the whole time. And I know people that, I gave a project manager example, and I want to talk about this too. I don't know if the role was officially project or product manager, but I know a developer that had that role, like, as a developer, and then moved into project or product management, and did that for a bit, and was like, holy crap, man, like, nah, like, I gotta go back to being a developer. So I think that it's worth, if you're interested, explore, right? See how you can be proactive, try to create those opportunities, be clear about asking for those opportunities. Try it out. Because if you try to rush into stuff, you might find it's not for you. So I think that's where I'll leave that one. I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself, but I do that a lot. I might be driving to the office again tomorrow. Maybe Thursday too. Kind of going in every day this week. There's a lot of stuff going on for work, so I'm trying to be present for that. But it's taxing because, number one, this drive, like how long was this? Almost an hour? I mean, there's a couple things. Number one, this drive's long when there's traffic, and today there was tons of traffic for no reason. So that's really stupid. Number two is this X1, this car, sucks. It absolutely sucks. There's zero enjoyment in driving it, and it's a net negative experience to be driving this car. It's terrible. I would never recommend that anyone buy this. It's older too, so you don't have to worry about that. But if new X1s are anything like this, I would say stay the hell away. And that's not because I'm against BMW. Our SUV is a BMW, so I like BMW, but I don't like whatever the hell this is. It's trash. So it's not enjoyable to drive. But the other thing that's really getting me this week, is my wife was sick all last week, and she's still sick this week. And so I've been like, because she's coughing all night, and like I feel so bad for her, because it's like I know she's losing sleep over it, but so am I. And I'm sleeping in a different room because she's by the time her medicine wears off in the middle of the night for coughing, she's coughing like in her sleep, right? So I'm sleeping in another room, and it's where our cats sleep at night. And I love our cats, but the past 2 nights I've had like zero sleep. I missed CrossFit 2 mornings in a row because on Monday, so like Sunday night, I remember being in bed trying to go to sleep, and like I must have been like, went to bed at 11, it was probably 12 or 1, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to CrossFit in the morning. Like, these cats have kept me up, kind of in and out of sleep. And the same thing happened last night. So I woke up at 5 so that I could, get ready to go to CrossFit. And I remember like waking up and being like, no, there's absolutely no way that I could go. And I know when I've not slept enough, I mean, there's a lot of signs, but the front of my head, it's not quite a headache, but it feels like my temples are like heavy. So there's like a pressure, and it kind of feels like they're heavy for me. And like, I'm probably gonna get home, eat, and I probably need to sleep. Like, I probably gotta take a nap and then go to bed early as well. So, which is really crappy because, I mean, for a whole bunch of reasons, but the side effect of not sleeping properly like this is like, I've missed CrossFit now 2 mornings in a row. And as someone who used to be into bodybuilding, like, not going to the gym sucks. But now I'm missing the gym, and now I'm giving up like my own personal time because I have to like sleep when I could either be productive or relaxing. So I can't, like, if I was like, oh, I want to play video games tonight, or I want to just like kick back and like kind of veg out, like, no, I have to go put myself to sleep to try and make up for it. And that drives me nuts. But I don't think I have a choice. I think I have to nap when I get in. I'm getting heartburn. This is the second day in a row I got really bad heartburn. So I'm gonna nap when I get home, and then try to be productive for a bit, and then go to bed early. Try to go to bed at 10 maybe. So then I can actually go to CrossFit tomorrow. But you know what that means? Probably more code commute videos. It's interesting. I've been trying to this is an interesting channel for me to run because my primary one, Dev Leader, has, I mean, at the time of recording, has like 8,500 followers or subscribers on YouTube. It's been about 2 years of doing that, which I actually feel like that's incredibly slow growth. Like, I have hundreds of videos. I think there's over 400 videos on my other channel. And there's 8,500 subscribers, okay? And there's some days where I'll put out a video and I'll get like 60 views on a day with 8,500 subscribers. What I feel like are useful tutorial videos. They're professionally edited. I have thumbnails done for them. So they literally cost me money and my time. And then I sit in this car. I sit in this car and rant about software engineering. And all of my YouTube metrics on this channel are like double or triple per video what I'm getting on my primary one, which is like insane. And that's, I think I talked about this before, but that's like not to say that it's because this channel's doing so amazing. I think it's because like my other channel is just stalled. It feels so bad. So I'm not gonna give up on Dev Leader. That's my baby. But like, man, it's super demotivating to put so much effort into that stuff, and then it's like, say in a month, just to give you an idea, say in a month it cost me between $500 and $1,000 to have videos edited and thumbnails made on that channel, okay? Just for context. Depending on how many videos I put out, between $500 and $1,000. And every day on that channel, I think I finally made it up to making $3 a day. So let's round up. Let's say from all of my hard work, my ad revenue on Google gets me $100 a month, which is cool, by the way, because it used to be zero. So it's cool. I finally have made it to a point where it's about $100 a month. It's no longer $1 a day, it's $3. But I'm still losing like $400 to $900 a month on that channel. So it feels very bad. And then there's this one where I'm just, like I said, ranting. And then more people are watching it. So, like, it's way more motivating to make videos on this channel. Because I'm like, oh, people are actually watching it? Like, awesome. People are actually sending in messages because they want me to talk about stuff? Awesome. Like, let's keep doing that. But got to keep both going. So, that's how it is. But I'm just about home here. Got to put down the window so I can back this thing up. Let's see. Oh yeah, we're good. But yeah, I guess I will leave it there, folks. We'll be back in the car soon, fortunately, by the end of the week for sure. So I will see you later, and just a friendly reminder that if you have other topics and stuff you want me to go through, like I said, comment below or find me, Dev Leader, on any social media. Just send them in a DM, say you want it anonymous, and we'll chat through it. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.